Hello, Internet. This is Romney from the future. Just want to warn you, this is going to discuss spoilers for the Hateful Eight, but there's also some explicit language, so if you're somehow hooking your phone up to your car stereo and you have kids driving with you, maybe don't listen to this at full volume with your kids in the car. I mean, unless they're like teenagers and they're used to swear words. I mean, I wouldn't want my older brother listening to this with the expletive language with his 5-year-old daughter in the car, so... yeah, just fair warning, there are spoilers, and there is some foul language here and there. Just thought I'd give you the heads up. And with that, we take you to High Point Coffee on the corner of 78th and Redwood in... what city is this again?
This would be West Jordan.
Yeah, West Jordan, Utah. So... la 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 la.
Woohoo!
Hello, Internet. We're currently sitting at High Point Coffee, and I am here with my dad, who you may recognize from the SP Romney show.
Hi there.
And I'm also here with my brothers Shaman and Scott. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello there.
That's
I'm weird.
Scott.
That's me.
And this is Shaman.
And we saw The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino's latest film. Now, I mean, we've all kind of have varying degrees of how much Tarantino we've all seen. I mean, I've seen Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, Shaman's. I think, have you seen Kill Bill? And
I've seen Kill Bill, Django. I love Tarantino. I've seen pretty much all of his films, actually.
And Scott, like, how much Tarantino have you?
I've seen the Kill Bills, and did he do Glorious Bastards?
Yeah, Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, I saw Inglourious Bastards as well, and one more film, but I might have forgotten what it was. So.
Oh, well, what's the basic premise?
Basically, something with, like, religious people. So let's not worry about that one. Mainly, Kill Bill's the main one that I know about him, and then Inglourious Bastards.
And Dad, how much Tarantino were you exposed to prior to seeing The Hateful Eight?
Well, Pulp Fiction I saw a long time ago, and in the theater when it came out, so that dates me. I've seen the Kill Bill, never in order that I know of. I've seen it on TV, late night TV, so that's about it. I didn't see Inglourious Bastards, and I haven't seen a lot of. I mean, I don't know how many. Is this actually the 8th film he's made?
Mm-hmm.
So I've missed probably 4 of his films, unless we went through all of the names and maybe I've seen.
Well, yeah, because I mean, there was Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained. That's 7. So yeah, this is the 8th.
I missed that one. I would have liked to have seen Django Unchained.
Yeah, the problem is it came out the same year as Les Miserables. So to kind of keep this focused, let's kind of go with what we knew going in about the film, what our expectations kind of were. So.
Okay, if I was going to start, I had no bloody clue. The only thing I knew was that snow was going to be involved. That's all I knew.
That was it.
Sorry, are you meaning Jon Snow or
No?
That'd be awesome. Snow, but that's all I knew. I didn't know about it being, like, so gritty, for one. I didn't know about, like, in the very beginning, someone's nose is going to get cracked.
Yeah.
Well, I had a suspicion that it would be gory because Kill Bill was pretty graphic. Every time somebody got hit with a sword or bit by a snake or got their eye ripped out, it was pretty graphic. So I was expecting it, but I was actually surprised at and I'm honestly a little bit surprised at another aspect of the violence. There was so much violence in this particular movie directed towards a woman that I'm sort of shocked that there hasn't been more stir in the media and stuff about this guy, Jeff Bridges' character, just smacking this woman.
No, it's not just
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. Sorry, I get those two guys.
I feel like you would think of True Grit for some reason.
But it's like that. Here's this lovable old gray-haired cowboy who can't hold it in. I mean, you know, at any slight provocation, he smacks this woman in the face.
Well, like,
you know, it's kind of. I'm surprised that nobody has raised a ruckus about it.
I think it's probably because everybody realized, well, it's Tarantino. The guy is.
Yeah.
well, I also think it's the fact that, for one, they already designed the character to be already in a sense a bastard, but it's also the fact that, if you look at it, I think it was the fact that they already saw it's like, why is she being taken to by this guy that's called the Hangman? It's like, oh, because she murdered someone.
Well, and to actually bring it back to also how much I knew, because I can bring it up, I did actually read a few articles on the movie. They didn't go too heavy into the plot. I am also surprised because I actually did see the news and nobody brought it up in a negative light. They did mention there's a lot of violence. They almost brought it up as a positive that, hey, it's not like the woman was ignored. There was violence towards everybody. The only things I knew about the actual plot, though, is that Samuel L. Jackson's character was originally supposed to be Django, but Quentin Tarantino wanted to make every character unlikable, and Django was too likable. And I heard mixed reviews as to how people felt about it, and that basically I just heard Tarantino wanted people to be, no, you're not supposed to really like anybody in the film. You're supposed to think every one of them is kind of a bastard.
Well, they succeeded with that woman.
And
There was nothing likable about her.
Yeah, and it kind of works with the story they were more or less trying to tell, because it wasn't. I mean, because the best example, like, yeah, it's set in the Old West, but it's not your typical Western, not even in the whole playful sense like Django Unchained. Mm-hmm. The best example, the best comparison I can think of is that it kind of reminded me a lot of 12 Angry Men, since it's one of those stories that just takes place in one central location for the entire runtime.
Like, well, what I also loved about it is that they made the characters outside of the story, you know, the characters that were killed off before the story started and stuff like that. They made them very likable, and then they just get killed really quickly.
Yeah, like basically, and I'm assuming you're not worried too much about spoilers.
Oh yeah, I'll just record a disclaimer tag at that.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Okay, but yeah, because I mean, it does a perfect job to take, because a lot of the characters that they reveal killed all of those nice people had very likable traits to them before they, you see them kind of like, well, I mean, we guess they're bad, but maybe they're just, down on their luck or whatever, and so they show them do something so cruel that way. Again, it kills all the likability, because you're almost like, oh, they're nice. Only one of them must be a bad guy, because obviously all three of them are nice enough that they shouldn't all.
Well, like, I think the best example was the guy that was supposed to be the executioner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was like I'm that nice Englishman that you see in the thing. And then same thing with the guy that said he was trying to see his mother. Like, it seemed like he had nothing on him. I kind of saw him, they were trying to avoid looking at him.
I mean, it kind of almost reminded me a bit of a film noir, almost kind of like a crime drama almost, because that's kind of what you get with just how Samuel L. Jackson character Major, was his name, like, I think it was
Marquis?
Wallace. It was like Wallace, I think was his name.
Yeah, it was Wallace.
Sorry, just
Yeah, I thought it too.
I just got it. Because Wallace is his character from Pulp Fiction.
Oh!
No, actually, no, because that's not his name. Because in Pulp Fiction, Marcellus Wallace is a different character.
Oh, I think it's just an Easter egg, maybe.
Maybe.
Are you sure? I swear Samuel L. Jackson's character.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson. His character is not called Wallace, because I know one of the people they're dealing with is Marcellus Wallace. There's the whole prevailing theory that what's in the suitcase is Marcellus Wallace's soul, which is why you never see it, and that's why the combination is 666. And
I thought I heard that was. I'm going to do some slight research because it's going to bother me, so hopefully it doesn't screw up your recording.
Oh, well, just cut ahead editing.
But I heard that, or from what I understood, going on the Tarantino verse, I thought that the suitcase was supposed to be the diamonds from Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of theories. I mean, yeah, and Tarantino's not the kind of person who's going to confirm anything. He's just going to make his movies and let us all figure it out.
Yeah, he'll intentionally put stuff like that.
I'll just call Samuel Jackson's character the Major, because that's how they kind of refer to him. Right. So,
and then we'll call I don't know the English guy's name, so can we just call him the Executioner, maybe?
Or maybe just call him the English guy, because he was the only English guy.
English guy. And then the Mexican.
English Pete.
Yeah, English.
Senior Bob.
And
the first name of Samuel.
Well, yeah, like, I know that
Samuel Jackson's character was Marquis.
Yeah, and I know that he was called Major because he was actually a major in the Union Army. So
What's the guy's name?
And yeah,
The
you're
guy
right, it's
that
not Scientology.
basically said that he was going to see his mother, and then
yeah, John
turned out-
Gates.
John something or other.
And
yeah.
wasn't he also like he was like Groucho?
Yeah, like his real gang name was Grouch, but like his alias was John Gates, and then it was like the British guy was like,
English Pete.
well, like that was his like
Oswaldo,
it was like
British
Oswaldo something was like
Oswaldo, yeah.
which is probably how the names were written in the script. So like it was like Oswaldo, John Gates. You had the old man who was the old.
What was his
Southern-
name
The
again?
general.
Yeah,
Like, he was a-
like I know they said it, but I don't remember.
But he's the
Sandy.
general, basically.
I can only
General Sandy, something like that.
I can only remember his
Obviously,
son's name. And
the
his name is
names
Chris.
didn't stick in our mind.
Probably because they weren't necessarily that important, but
Although it's ridiculous that we don't know. I guess it's because Samuel L. Jackson is just such a recognizable character as Samuel L. Jackson that it's hard to actually put a character to him. Which is like, even when I see Mace Windu, the only reason I know is because it's distinct. But it's like, oh, Samuel L. Jackson is on the screen in Star Wars. Like, that's how it always.
yeah.
I was going to
which-
say pop your phone out and just look up their names.
well, that's what he did.
No, I looked at the Marcellus
Like,
Wallace.
we-
I can pop out my
Yeah,
phone.
I should do
I'm
that.
trying not to be that guy. But
Marcellus what?
Marcellus Wallace is
the gang boss.
yeah.
That why can't Uma Thurman
Yeah, like
is married to? in
yeah,
Pulp
Uma
Fiction.
Thurman's character is married to in Pulp Fiction. He's also kind of the person that Bruce Willis's character has to rescue from those weird guys in the pawn
Yeah,
shop.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then also were the people that I think it was like at the opening they were it was either they were collecting money from Marcellus Wallace or they were specifically there to collect money, and they mentioned Marcellus Wallace in the whole exchange with the Kahuna Burger. But anyway,
So back to
the Hateful Eight.
Eight.
Now,
Yeah.
we always talk about like the characters, and one thing I immediately notice is that this film does have a pretty slow start.
Don't
And-
tell me about that. Was really slow.
You know,
I mean,
I liked it.
In
That's
defense
the
of the
thing.
film, I understand because it's kind of calling on a tradition in film that we don't really see anymore of kind of the slow start, not just with like the credits, but kind of having the slow atmospheric build up.
Oh, well, I was in the very beginning. It was slow, but I liked it because it's like, oh, they're just getting everything out of the way, kind of thing.
well, and I guess speaking as the official Tarantino fanboy, as I'm the only one who saw it, one of the things I like about Tarantino's directing style is that he does such a good job of character exposition through dialogue. So a lot of the slow start gives you a deep feeling for all of the characters involved in it, though. So it's not useless. It is slow. It's got a very slow pacing, but that it gives you all of that meaning. So that when can I swear on this one?
Yeah, I'll just bleep it out.
Oh, I'll try not to then. But if I do, I know I'm not gonna. Okay, but when shit gets real, you care so much more because you learn about these characters, and you may hate some or like some other. Like for example, you hate. I'm actually so. Oh come on, show me.
Well-
But yeah, like for example, like it's Mannix. So Chris Mannix, the extremely racist young guy of the Confederate general.
Who's basically becoming the
who's
the sheriff of Red Rock.
Exactly. You know it that allows you to see it because it makes you feel bad about rooting for him later when he starts to become one of the better characters because they use the early dialogue to showcase just how much of a racist dick he is.
Not only that, but he is kind of like a daddy's boy.
Yeah, and he's kind of a daddy's boy, and he's a racist, and it works because it makes you. And it's Major Marquis Warren. So-
Warren. So
But and for example, that also allows you to both start to feel for Major Warren because you're like, oh, he escaped a camp, he fought all those Confederates, screw those rebels.
Then you realize
But
he
then
murdered a ton.
you hear in the story, oh, he also killed a bunch of his own people, and he killed a bunch of rebels, and he didn't care, and his whole reason for joining, as he said, was to kill white soldiers.
yeah, and that's not even the worst of it when we get into that scene where he's basically trying to goad the general.
Oh yeah.
Which basically you can like. Okay, at first I thought he was lying, and then it turned out it's like nope. He found out it was this guy.
And even then, it could even be a case where he may have been lying because it's as we see with the Lincoln letter, he's like capable of it. And so it could even be a case that all we're hearing about the stuff he's done is from him. So even then, we're not exactly sure if he actually did it to
There
the
is
general.
an indication that he's a liar.
That is true.
It's laid out there, so he could have just been reading the general's mind.
We're kind
in
of just
terms
reading his
of
expressions and just knowing what buttons
how,
to push.
how to keep pushing the buttons until he finally got him to go for the.
But and it could even be something in the middle where maybe he did kill, the general's son,
But he didn't.
but he didn't make him, fillet him in the
Fillet
snow.
him after marching naked in the snow for 2 hours.
Well, I mean, like, the reason why it's really weird to make sure you don't know if he's lying or not is the fact, okay, for one, he didn't start talking to the general until he realized, I killed your son, kind of thing. So,
but I think that also kind of comes from the fact that early on the general said he wasn't going to acknowledge, like, he doesn't acknowledge, like, well, N-word people in uniform. And I know that was kind of where the main contention really began, was the fact that, he doesn't acknowledge, wasn't even going to give him the time of day. And so he's just like, I don't like this guy. I'm going to make him suffer.
Well, and plus he obviously had beef with him because he knew him from the Battle of
Baton Rouge.
where he killed a bunch of prisoners of war because they were black.
And that's...
he violated the rules of war because he didn't see black people as human.
And that's why...
Call me crazy, but the character... Marquez Warren, Samuel Jackson's character is way too manly a man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's why I think it's a lie.
Well,
because I just have a hard time believing that would be the way he would humiliate.
To quote a film that I don't know if anyone else has seen, to quote Harold and Kumar, Escape from Guantanamo Bay, it's not gay to have your dick sucked. It's only gay to suck.
Well, especially when you're considering that it's not actually about pleasure, it's about power and humiliation.
It is the basic forms of prison.
I still think he's a liar, and that whole thing was a lie, but it was very cleverly crafted lie to make the general absolutely lose his mind.
Well, that's what I loved about it, because it wasn't like, I made your son just wish for death. He was like, he wished for a blanket. That really got
and it was about humiliation. Yeah, and so he's like, it's the most subservient thing you can make someone do.
But don't forget the trigger that finally launched the general was when he said, and the only reason I did all of this is because he was your son.
It's like because he mentioned that he was your son.
He mentioned that he was your son. That's why.
And you were the one.
That's why I humiliated him. That's why I degraded him in every way I could think of.
Yeah, basically, in the end, it's your fault your son suffered.
We've been focusing on this one character. I think I want to focus maybe on the character that, not the first one to go, but basically he's the character that. Okay, he's the guy that's chained with the lady. What's his name?
John Ruth the Hangman. Mm-hmm. So,
he's a big character. He's, I think, the second to first person to die.
Well, and it's one of those, he's actually, in all honesty, if there's a character that's likable, or that could almost be seen as a good person, even with his kind of brutal manner, he probably was one, so it makes sense that him and,
Obi.
They called him Obi. I'm trying to see if he actually has a name, but yeah, Obi.
I felt so bad for Obi. Like, he was
I don't actually think they have Obi credited here.
Oh, really?
Well, I know that they, in the opening credit thing, they said, and such and such as
Jody?
Obi.
No, Jody's the brother.
Okay.
Because it's his gang. Anyway, it doesn't matter if his name's not here, but...
That's sad.
But yeah, but Obi, again, did nothing wrong. He's just there to do a job. And then John Ruth, although he's brutal, we don't know what she did, but obviously she's got $10,000 bounty on her, and she probably put up a fight. She's not exactly a nice person, but he specifically chooses to serve justice the way it should be, because he's like, I could just kill people, I could let them get lynched, or I could let them, but I believe that they should do their time in front of a judge, and that they should be judged. So he brings them in alive, and he even kind of humanizes at points, because he sees how much she's struggling to eat when they're chained together, so he unchains her, he lets her play guitar, and he only gets mad. He actually kind of humanizes, like, oh, that was really nice, why don't you sing the second verse? He only gets mad when she basically says, oh, you're gonna die and I'm gonna run away, He, for the most part, is too nice, and again, it almost is why he gets killed, because he... even with all of his precautions, he was almost too nice.
What I did like about it, though, is that they knew, the gang, when they were planning, they weren't planning like, oh, we're going to kill him. They were planning to get her safe.
Well, they weren't planning on killing
they were planning on killing
hangman,
but the first goal was to make sure that she stays alive, because if he found out that she had this plan, he would kill her.
Or if they shot him, but they didn't finish him off in one hit, his last thing would probably be to blow her head off.
When she noticed when he actually was trying to beat her to death, but he was dying.
Well, and that was also because he was pretty sure
Oh, he was
he
mad.
thought she poisoned him, which in a sense she did. So he was trying to.
Alright. Well, to kind of another thing that kind of stood out to me was just some of the shot choices, because I know the film was shot on 70mm, and Tarantino is good at like actually composing like creative looking images, and that was one thing that I kind of noticed. That was another thing I noticed right away about the film, is that he was very particular about the way he framed and composed certain shots and certain characters. And I also kind of liked the atmosphere he was like very quick to build. I mean, it's obvious, like very gritty, very rough, not like typical westerns, and not even like typical anti-westerns like Unforgiven. And so that was another aspect of the film that kind of stood out to me.
Well, I agree with that, because some of the camera angles I really liked. Okay, there was two. One of them was basically when they were doing like a panorama, or whatever you call it, going around the woman when she was, in a sense, screaming for like her innocence or something, like, or what she's planning to do with the 15 men. Like, they were just showing, she was basically threatening those two guys.
Oh, you mean like because they kept panning to different angles for her?
Yeah,
I
but
guess?
mainly just for her, because I was trying to put a scenario of like she's the one talking.
Yeah, it's more like they kind of kept tracking around her, but then also kind of quickly looked at some of the other gang members, but she was always kind of
The main
They
focus.
pretty much always had her.
Yeah,
so.
and another thing I noticed that there were often quite a few shots where the subject was like clear in the center. Like a good example is when the general is like is standing up and getting ready to go for the gun. You notice when the sheriff is like trying to tell him not to basically be baited by Warren. He's like off to the side. You can barely even see him because he's not even in focus, and the general's right smack in the center.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, like, I think another scene that I liked about it is like, okay, for one, some of the angles did fit for their thing. So, like, you know how the woman was dying on the ground and he was eating his pipsy sticks? They put it over angled under it to show it's like he's in power. And what also made it seem like is like he was less caring.
Well, and in a sense, they just did it in a way that's in a sense supposed to be her view, as in
Yeah.
she's looking up at him. That's what she sees as she's dying.
That's why I liked about it. It wasn't just like him just, you know, like, I've seen some scenes where they just focus on the side of the face and they'll be like,
And again, it's all good to just build that callous kind of uncaring feeling you need to get for these people, because they almost seem like, oh, we should like them at some point. So you get to see how much of a monster, you know. Sorry, John Gage, I can't remember. But you get to see
I just
how
call him what's
awful,
his face.
how awful he is, because again, he's talking to her, he's being all nice. All of them are kind of doing that. Like the two, really what they did is they took the two characters that you're supposed to think are really nice
and then
and made him, because same with us, you know, Oswaldo, he was also seemed really nice, proper Englishman, so he also callously kills somebody, and she looks up at him and is crying, and he blows her away. And same with John Gage, they had her, you know, grabbing his coat, just trying to basically beg, and he just.
I think the biggest thing that actually made me feel bad for her was the fact that he asked her a question of, oh, why are you called that? And made it seem like, oh yeah, she's impressive.
Yeah.
And then he just killed her.
Well, and just like because again with Oswaldo, he helps the
Lady with the
lady with the ladder, and he's giving her smiles, and he's being really nice to her.
and then just shoots the jelly bean.
Shoots through the jelly beans.
Shoots through the jelly beans, and then as she's sitting there crying and basically just like, no, 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 he then shoots her again, you know.
There's an irony that we're sitting here all having coffee, which was the main character in this movie. I mean, the coffee.
Oh God!
Coffee. Did any of you come out of it with a craving for stew?
Yeah,
Actually, that's why I ordered my thing.
I mean, it was like,
it was a good looking stew.
he didn't rush
That
the
was
stew.
the bowls I liked.
And the stew just kept going on, and I mean they were eating stew and another bowl of stew, and I mean a big pot of stew. I came out of it kind of craving. Wait, I mean the coffee is good. I'm glad it's not poison.
Well, that's why I got espresso.
And that's
What
why I
did
got
you-
a steamer.
I'd
What
be the
did
one
you
that-
think? I mean, when I said that it was violent and gross and whatever, and I was,
You mean like with the
I've
cooking?
got to
gun?
say that the poisoned coffee scenes, what follows the poisoned coffee, is about the most graphic depiction of poisoning I've ever seen.
That just
Brutal.
I think it was really the fact that okay, here's the thing that I loved about the poison scene. It wasn't like it slowly happened. All of a sudden, I was thinking that the, whatever you call it, Bob, or Bobby. The guy.
Senior Bob.
No, not Senior Bob, the other guy.
Oh, Obi.
Obi. And I was thinking that he was gonna just all of a sudden, have the cough. Then all of a sudden,
Yeah, I was expecting him to maybe drop dead or something. I didn't expect projectile blood.
and I was going like,
Projectile blood vomiting. It's
Although
like,
at the same time, that does actually happen.
well, the
with certain
first
types
time
of
it
poison.
happens is on the table in front of Kurt Russell's
Well, yeah,
character.
from Kurt Russell's
Yeah,
character.
he's the one who does it first, and then Obi turns and
Obi does
Well,
the same thing. And
well, like here's the thing that I loved about that scene. It had the shock that usually anybody that gets sick, like how someone throws up, you're not gonna be like, oh, I'm expecting them to throw up. You just see it and like, oh. In that scene, it's like, oh.
well, it was a much better way to handle it instead of like having them slowly get sick because they drank it and it's poisoned.
Yeah.
So you're just sitting there going, what's gonna happen? So I was almost thinking they were gonna pull off instead of it being such a short, quick thing. Pull off more of a they just
Die in their sleep.
not through their sleep, but just
So
kind
kind
of
of more
as
like
the
a
night
one by
goes
one
on.
sort of thing.
Well, and as the night goes on, he just starts to cough, and then after getting sick enough, realizes something up way too late to do anything.
well,
about.
when I mean, I'm just throwing this out as a question, kind of. I mean, if he hadn't died, the main character, the hangman, if he hadn't died before he got it done, do you think he would have beaten the woman to death? Because that seemed to me what he was trying to do. I mean, it was like, you've killed me. Before I go, I'm gonna kill you.
It's more like I'm taking you with me.
I just couldn't make it.
He probably would have.
I think
yeah.
I think it wasn't like his ultimate goal was to kill her. I think he was just so enraged that he just went in, and then I think it's the fact that since he was so sick, he was just dying. All of a sudden, that's what I mean. The woman pulled out a gun on him.
Yeah, because as he was beating her, he then kind of slumped over because he was vomiting more, and that was the moment when she was able to get his gun.
Well,
And
and
then
I personally think he would have done it because he knew he was probably about to die.
Yeah, it's
That's
Like,
true.
so it wasn't a matter of like he thought maybe it'd survive. So there was no reason for him to keep her alive. Plus, in the end, if he did for some whatever reason survive, he still can collect her bounty and everything. It's less money and all that, but he could totally have still killed her because he didn't know he was done. Obviously, if he actually killed her,
dead or alive, the bounty stays the same. I think. Doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but it's more like
I was going to say in the Old West, actually, no. Usually live bounties would give you more due to the difficulty of trying
trying to keep them alive and all of that.
Well,
what it is bounty hunters didn't think it was worth the trouble to, like, the amount of money they would make was not worth the risk of getting killed to do it, so they would just kill their targets because it's easy to pick someone off from the top of a hill and then walk the...
Yeah, well, they examined that in the dialogue
Yeah.
and the whole thing. It was like when they were explaining who the hangman was and what his whole strategy is.
hang the mean people. It's like you can hang the mean people, and mean people need to be hanged.
Yeah, I did. But but the whole point is, But in the Old West, it was just the cost wasn't worth it because it was easier to just kill somebody, go collect their body, bring it in, whereas bringing them in alive, you serve justice and everything, but there's a good chance that in your sleep they slit your throat.
Yeah.
So,
Not only that, but what I also liked about it is the fact that, there's all the bullets and stuff like that. And during that time, if you looked at it, what actually killed a lot of people wasn't the fact of, oh, they got shot. It was actually later on the infection, because those bullets didn't today you shoot someone, it's like, oh, it's a tiny wound that does a lot. During that time, it was like a tiny cannonball that just, if you notice what I liked about the movie is that they didn't show just like, oh, it shot through him. It literally was like it shot. Well,
actually, if you not to get too off topic, if you've ever seen like Magnum ballistic tests and stuff like that, which they would be shooting, none of their stuff was a low caliber round. Even nowadays, because you always see it is a small hole when you go in, but if you look at any sort of ballistic submarine or anything, it's a giant exit wound.
Well,
so the back of somebody's head exploding when they get shot is actually more realistic than you.
Well, I'm aware, but I was saying in that time it was more like that.
Well, no.
But anyway, let's not.
Well, yeah, not to get too. But just basically because what you're thinking about is Civil War, but this probably takes place about 20 or so years after the Civil War.
That's right.
By that time, they actually had cartridge ammunition, and that cartridge ammunition even from back then.
They had cartridge ammunition because Warren loaded his pistol, which was one of the.
Yeah, and it wasn't anachronistic for him to do so.
He was actually putting cartridges in his 6-shooter, not putting in powder in a ball and a
because like in the 1870s was when the Winchester rifle came out.
Also, the Winchester rifle, and then you also had the Colt revolver. Was
exactly.
Also.
And both of those used cartridges.
Did you also notice that those guns were actually pretty close to the date that they were set.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's kind of cool when I looked at it.
Tarantino always,
Yeah,
again,
because-
in Inglourious Bastards, everything
Yeah,
is
because
spot on.
he's not a big fan of anachronism.
The
at
only-
least based on my knowledge.
The only thing
unless intentionally.
Like,
he
unless
went
it's like specifically in service to the story.
The only thing I can say that really, if I was going to comment on the guns a little bit, is that during the time, I don't remember big guns during that time being shiny. Like, I saw a lot of Civil War replicas and
Well, they
stuff like
can.
Well, yeah, it's just the key thing to remember is that, I mean, one, for guns, it's not just like, oh, you can just fire it and not do it. You do have to maintain, especially if it's a firearm you use frequently.
And actually, I was gonna. The shininess of a gun versus anything else is actually just a finish on it.
Okay.
Unless you let your gun get into huge disrepair, it's really old.
Well, the reason why
so
I'm
it
saying
makes sense
because-
for all of their guns to be kind of shiny.
Well, the reason I wasn't meaning like shiny, like it's like clean. I was meaning like the guns I
Chrome
seen,
finish.
yeah, chrome finish. Where I saw other guns that are just like plain black guns or just steel.
Blue.
Well, and again,
Yeah.
it's
Blue.
just the way you finish the metals. Because if you have a regular go to any gun store and pick up a Magnum, it'll look as shiny as the ones in the movies. But you can also get ones in a gunmetal finish where they're very subdued.
Well, that was one of the plot holes for me. Was the flip knife that he used in the scene where he put the knife to the guy's neck to get his gun away from him. He used
More or less a switchblade.
A folding knife.
which
Yeah, but I'm
in
think-
those days, I don't know that those had been invented yet.
Well, there probably may have been a variant
were-
of it. Just
They were
What-
invented during that time.
Watch very closely how he uses it. What wasn't really in huge use was a locking folding knife.
Yeah.
When he folds it out, the blade doesn't. He doesn't press a release switch to close
Yeah.
it. It just closes. Folding knives existed back then. Locking folding knives, there were rudimentary locks, but none of the more advanced stuff we have where you like hit a switch.
Well,
and
the
flip
other
it closed.
the other thing that was going back to the what will ultimately, I think, be the scene that defines this movie. The word Johnson. I don't think the word Johnson. I mean, that sounded like current slang
yeah,
technology.
there were a few moments like
current
that.
slang words
Pecker,
to me,
Johnson.
rather than phrases that might have been.
Although at the same time, they're not. Those phrases are kind of. I mean, Johnson has probably been around longer than
Yeah.
you think, though. And Pecker definitely is a
Yeah,
new
that's been
timer,
around.
not a new time. Pecker's an oldie.
But-
So Pecker, I believe. Johnson, maybe.
Well, and then there was Dingus was one that he used.
Dingus, Dingus was around because, again, although not necessarily
I
the
think
same
it's
thing, but
Dinger.
the Dingus and Gallant like cartoon
No, that's Goofus and Gallant.
Sorry, it's Goofus, but I know that Dingus is from around that time. There's a character from like super old like black and white things called Dingus. Like Dingus, again, that terminology is probably not too off.
Well, I don't know. The Johnson thing stuck out to me like a giant sore thumb.
That's
and I
a-
guess I
The
will
Johnson stuck out to
eventually-
you.
like
Yeah.
a Johnson.
Well, no, like it does get stuck in my head because whenever I think about it, it's kind of like, oh god. Every time you hear Johnson, you gotta think of Samuel Jackson.
Welcome to the 12-year-old portion of the podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean that is I hate to say it, but that's gonna be the I mean, death. You could shoot people. You can splatter their brains all over. You can do. I mean, that brain splattered face of this woman.
Oh, that really.
That was really kind of one of the heights of grossness. But people will accept violence in a movie. They'll accept graphic violence. But when you start talking about
sex and stuff like that.
Sexual violence.
forcing somebody to accommodate
To blow the
your
whistle.
to blow the whistle. Yeah,
Credit
that-
goes to Flo
Just
Rida.
for a blanket. That he,
yeah, to try to get a blanket because you're so cold. Yeah,
You just want to die warm.
Anything warm you can get a hold of, you'll
Well,
give it a try.
And that's what surprised me is that sexual violence and again violence against women are usually hot buttons. That's why I was surprised. Now the sexual violence I'm not too surprised to not hear about because one, that's so far in the movie that people wouldn't want to spoil, and on top of it,
Yeah.
you probably don't bring that up in an article. I was surprised not to hear about the female violence. I just said, well, it's violent and it's Tarantino. Like that was pretty much what I.
Yeah, well, I just think that that particular speech is, you won't see, unless there are a lot of bleeps, you won't see cuts of that particular sequence anywhere on any news program, but there will be commentary about the graphic.
Yeah, but even that,
descriptive-
I think a key thing to remember is that Tarantino, another influence on some of his films is exploitation films. That's why he gets along really well with people like Robert Rodriguez, because they both kind of draw from that. And so that's kind of, because that's the same thing you kind of see in Django Unchained, where he's kind of taking some cues from exploitation films. And so that was probably where a scene like that was more or less coming from.
Well, and that scene actually mirrored the start of Django Unchained. Because the start of Django Unchained is Django being marched in rags on a slave chain. Well, like his theme plays. So that I actually thought that's why he was... The filleting part kind of threw me off, because I thought he was specifically marching the character to show him what it's like to be a slave. Like, he's like, you get to feel what it's like, because they probably marched me in the cold barefoot.
Yeah, but to be fair, they probably also would have maybe hacked the slave.
Yeah,
to
and
that,
so in a sense it was...
when people talk about Pulp Fiction, they really, I've never heard any critic, I've never seen an article, I've never heard anybody mention what was going to happen to a guy who has a red rubber ball.
Yeah, what happened to Marcellus Wallace?
happening.
Yeah, it's not even like what was going to happen, it was what was happening.
Yeah, I
know
mean,
Bruce Willis
it's
saved the
like
day.
nobody
Literally
really,
saved his ass.
Yeah, well,
What was left.
yeah.
I haven't
I
seen
mean,
the movie, but I know about that scene. That's one thing.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I just don't know what.
That actually comes up quite a lot. More so for, like, the samurai sword, in all honesty, with Bruce Willis coming up to save him. But no, I've heard that scene come up a decent amount of times.
I mean, they referenced it on The Simpsons.
Obviously, Tarantino has, I mean, for shock value, doesn't mind examining the possibilities of male rape, which I think is kind of a daring move, maybe. I mean, talking about something like that, or presenting something like that.
Well, if you don't mind me putting my 2 bits on it, though, I feel like even if they throw.
Sorry again.
But I know, but basically, even though that's true, I always feel like that when you throw in something like that, it just kind of gets brushed over because no one wants to think about it. Where when you talk about women gaining the issues, it's because it's happening more often, maybe. But
Well, and
with guys, it actually happens too. But people just kind of.
Well, and that's why I said it's more realistic, and typically films play stuff like that for humor. Like they do the whole, oh, don't drop the soap type thing.
Yeah.
Tarantino doesn't show it. Same with women's violence. Like, you saw everybody laugh when he hit her in the face. Like, there was so much awkward laughter in that theater. It was actually kind of an entertaining game. But, like, did you see him, and this is early, so it's not a spoiler at all, just smashes Donahue in the face.
That's why I said broken nose.
In the face and breaks her nose. And
Well, she's got a black eye, and the irony when it comes to her later on in the movie when he says, "If you talk again or you do whatever it was that bugs him, I'll knock out your front teeth." Well, she didn't have it.
That's what made me laugh.
I mean, that was like really weird. I mean, she's the character. Her front teeth were
she
filed down to nothing.
They got knocked out.
Well,
she
like
had them when
they
he's
were
punching
chipped,
her on the ground.
basically.
The part where she's like struggling and he punches her in the face, that's when he punches.
Did you know she
really?
spit out the
Yeah,
teeth?
because she spits him in his face and then he coughs up the blood.
Oh.
Like, if she spits him and laughs at him, that's when he
Wow, I
vomits. and then
totally
he-
missed that. So
It was
he
very
broke-
quick.
He did break
Yeah,
her teeth out. Yeah.
But basically he hits her, and so everyone's kind of thinking, that was really funny, because it is kind of a funny line. And if it happened to a guy, even if they did the follow-up camera shot, people would have still found it funny. But then it zooms in on her face, looking like a tired, battered woman, looking at him and saying, like, "Yes, sir, I understand." And it's really dark and goes on for far too long to be comfortable with. And that's super intentional.
Well, she went through the whole movie with blood all around her nose.
Mhm.
Well,
I mean,
like-
the entire movie, she had the remnants left over from getting smashed in the face.
Well, I mean, like, here's another thing too that I noticed. No one really checks if she's okay. Like, for one, remember when she gets knocked out of the cart? As the thing is, and when he gets knocked, it's like, oh.
Well,
And
because
no
in a
one-
sense,
Well,
they
it's because
can see-
the guy's arm was like
no, like the
torn
guy's
because of handcuffs.
the guy's arm's torn, but no one checked if she was okay because
Well-
she got smacked out.
Well, he basically saw that she was alive, and he's like, well, because again,
He
one
needs
thing
her
he made a
alive.
point is he doesn't care what state she's in as long as it's not dead.
Okay,
No.
yeah.
But again,
Well, they make that really cclear. As long as she's not dead, it's okay. If she's beat up and broken and banged and whatever.
But what I liked about what Tarantino did, because he's done this because in Inglourious Basterds, the same, he doesn't shy away when he inflicts violence on women, it's not like, oh, by the way, I did this, but I'm downplaying. It's like, no, because I mean, like, I think it's, I'm trying to remember, when Shoshana dies in Inglourious Basterds, she gets choked to death by the guy. It's not like they have it flash to like a shadow or anything. Like, no, you see that Nazi guy choke the life out of her on the ground as she struggles, and Tarantino does not pull his punches and make it look kind of like, oh, I'm playing it down or she dies quick. Like, no, it's a brutal, awful death scene done intentionally because he doesn't want to shy away. If you're going to do violence, you should do real violence, or you should go Kill Bill route and just go hyper with it, but you should never downplay it or ignore it, because if you're writing a story with violence, the violence should exist.
Well, another thing I noticed what some people do if they want to introduce something that violent or something like that is they make the person doing the violence either become really, 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 really evil that you hated them from the very start. And in this one, everybody was a bastard, but I mean, like, when you make the character seem like so hated that even like the bastards think, yeah, he's way evil. He's too evil to be around. That's one way they get away with it.
Well, yeah, because like an Inglourious Bastard can't get more evil than a Nazi.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The coach driver wasn't evil.
Yeah, he was
my favorite, nicest guy. And,
he died
and they made the point that, you know, somebody here killed him, and all he did was drink coffee.
And then again,
that was a point they made.
Well, same thing with the lady going like, "What did you think of the coffee?"
Well, and then again, the next nicest character, which is the Hangman, which he's a rough bastard, but he's not mean. He's not a bad guy. He's just if anything, he's how a lawman should be, because even though he's rough with prisoners, they broke the law, but he's not like, I'm going to kill you.
Well,
I am doing the law.
Well, he has a very interesting part in this as they're discussing him hanging her. It's a very deep level of discussion that the hangman himself totally agrees with the philosophy of the
executioner.
Yeah, the impartialness of justice.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm not going to be passionate about doing it, and that's what makes all the difference. Kind of a discussion. It's kind of interesting.
You know, if I think about it, English Pete, the executioner, he was really good at, you know, hamming it up if he was really trying to free her. Because basically he was talking to her as if he is going to kill her, and made it very convincing.
Well, and again, they all seemed like very professional. Yeah. Again, their part, whether or not she was lying about the 15 men, the gang itself is probably big.
Well, like,
it was just whether or not she was lying about. But you get what I mean. They're all, because they make a point to show.
I think she was lying.
And
I think she was lying. I don't think there were 15 outlaws coming the next 2 days.
And their logic, because it doesn't make sense. Like, that's why I think she's lying, because if logically they weren't trying to kill him in the house, they didn't need to go to the house. Because their whole point was they were going to kill him in Red Rock, then the entire plot of the movie didn't have to exist, because they never would have had to go to the house to kill him.
Yeah.
Did you notice something really big that actually made me think? This made me really think. She did admit that she was planning with all of them. Like, Mara's like, were all in the same. Like,
oh, yeah,
it's like someone's not right. It's like, what do you think? And it's like, what do you know?
Well, yeah.
Oh yes.
It's like, oh yes, I'm planning with all of them.
And that's what made it laugh. I almost laughed. Like, that is sinister.
That was actually funny. In hindsight, I forgot about that scene, but in hindsight, that is pretty clever, because you expect to think, oh, she's crazy, she must be lying.
Or she's just being like sarcastic.
Smartass.
Because it was like basically
Yeah,
like,
she's being a
oh yeah, like, are you working with them? And it's like, oh yes, I'm working with everybody. It's all this grand plan.
And
It's totally not that you're paranoid.
And that's what I loved about it, because we fell into it. It worked. It really worked. She tricked everybody.
All right, well, given that we're at a good 42 minutes, that's a long enough line, I think we'll kind of go around, and I'll just end it with this simple question. Would you recommend this film to other people?
I would recommend it, and if you're not into gore, watch it only once if you're not liking the gore. But I say watch it because of the characters. That's it. I like the movie. I recommend it.
Okay, for me, if you're a Tarantino fan, it's more of the same and the great things. If you're not, definitely don't go into it if you're expecting Pulp Fiction. This is darker. It's definitely... I still don't exactly know how I feel about it. I did really enjoy it, but there are no, like... I guess I'd almost say if you like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones with their irredeemable characters, you'll like Hateful Eight, and it's a good movie. I would definitely recommend it.
If you're a Tarantino fan, it's a must-see, I would say. It could possibly be right up there in terms of quality. But my personal recommendation, the music. The music is fantastic.
Oh, we never
It's
talked
so
about that.
good. The music is worth the movie. If you don't like the gore and you don't like Tarantino, go into the theater, close your eyes, and just listen to the music, because the music is magnificent. It's the most engaging, involving score that I've heard for a movie this year, for sure.
And I was
or
surprised.
last year, I guess.
I was surprised to see that Ennio Morricone was still doing stuff. I mean, I couldn't quite see if it would if he actually had composed new stuff or they were just using stuff he had composed, because I thought he was dead. So
Well, we forgot to talk about that because they used the music beautifully.
yeah,
in
but
this
for most
movie.
of the film, at least for a good chunk of it,
It was quiet, yeah.
there wasn't a lot of music.
But I'm just talking about basically on some.
It creates the
Yeah.
mood. You during these long stretches when the Tarantino is setting the mood, you're getting cold, you're getting snow falling, you're getting a feeling for what's going on. During all of those what normally would be very lengthy, kind of boring parts of the film, the music is just so engaging.
Well, there was a song
It's-
when Samuel Jackson, when he was doing the big giant speech thing of what he did to the sun, there was music behind that was slowly reeling it up.
Well, even Tarantino's slightly campy, like the "and you're all alone now," as now I'm going to call him Grouch because I can't remember his regular name, walks out and shoots the last guy with the shotgun, and it's like this very ironic, all the lyrics, it doesn't fit the time period because it sounds like something out of the 70s, but the lyrics are basically like, you're all alone, no one's going to come and save you, as he's walking to go kill the last guy who's all alone and no one's going to save him.
That's so dark. I just realized that didn't they play a Beatles song in there?
I think early on.
Because I realized that song early on, it was pretty. Okay, good timing, but it also I don't know, wrong word, but basically it was building up to something bigger.
It definitely set the mood.
Yeah.
Okay, well, to answer the question, well, as everybody has already mentioned, if you are a fan of Tarantino, you probably have already seen this movie. And you probably even went to a theater that was showing it on 70mm instead of digitally, because, well, we were stuck with digitally because it's Utah, so. Yeah, definitely a must-see if you're a Tarantino fan. I definitely would recommend it for someone who appreciates film as an art form. Very much to us, it's very much a movie for cinephiles who can kind of appreciate the things that Tarantino's kind of pulling for inspiration. I mean, there were some things that felt kind of out of place, like some of the narration that he worked in that wasn't really established early on, because he does the whole chapter segment of stuff, kind of like what he did with Pulp Fiction, where each thing was like a vignette. And here,
well, the chapter. If I was going to jump in, the chapter I didn't mind. It was really the narration because it only appeared maybe
twice
4 times.
mainly.
Was it twice?
It was, I think, 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times, I think, in total.
And the point was that it wasn't really established at the very beginning, and so it felt like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was almost like someone was just reading the screenplay.
It really tripped me out there.
It felt awkward.
Yeah, like the reader, I almost felt the reader being that dispassionate almost served the movie. I just feel if they had found a way to introduce it at the beginning, it would have felt less like as I know you were saying earlier, less of like a stopgap,
like a Band-Aid,
or
basically.
a Band-Aid for bad plot, and more of an intentional thing. But since it comes in right in the middle and then continues, because it comes in at one scene that it really does fit, because it's talking about a character.
Well, yeah, it comes in the first time it comes in is after the general tried shooting Warren, and Warren basically
No, it comes in. Domingue has a secret.
That's
well,
what
yeah,
I'm
but
saying,
that that scene takes place right after where
Oh
basically.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so we're both right. It's because Domingue
good.
has a secret is literally right after after the general gets killed.
What was the second time? I think the second time.
The second time was when they were showing the 4 passengers, where it was at the very beginning, like earlier that morning. Was the other time that it
And then it also does earlier, and then it does it at the end of that segment as well.
And that's when it stops.
Yeah, and that's why, again, it would have just been better if they found some way to work it in earlier, or just left it out of the later scenes, because it wasn't necessary for any of the later scenes. It worked perfectly for Domingue has a secret, because it's the only way we're going to know that she has a secret, because she can't vocally say a single thing, because it would reveal it.
Well-
and plus she wouldn't want to, as we see later on.
And that's why it doesn't work. She can't say a secret, therefore it makes sense to have it.
I will say one thing though. After us talking about this, I do appreciate. Okay, I kept saying I wanted more of a mystery, but I do appreciate how they just kind of threw that out of the window. It's like you were all correct. It's all three.
Yeah, like where they tease at a mystery and then fake you out at the end with, a cheater answer, but done in a well way. Oh, which one did it? Well, only one did it, but all of them are bad, so you're fine.
So the Mexican was bad, and then the other guys
Yeah.
left were like, and then the basement. Like when you pointed out the 8 guests, I thought it was like, oh, they're talking about like Bobby or something like that. I thought he was the 8th guest, but then it turned out it's like, oh no, the 8th guest is
so
Heidi.
pretty much the Hateful Eight is a very apt title, and I guess since it's close to the end, I'll go ahead and kind of go with the rating. So yeah, if you're a Tarantino fan or a cinephile, I highly recommend this film. And again, there were some things I didn't like, so with all that we've discussed and kind of with what I said, I'm willing to give The Hateful Eight a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fair. It could have made it to really high if it didn't have those slight annoying things.
Yeah, and again, to kind of explain, my rating scale is not like I'm not doing the 4.5 out of 5 to be like, oh, I thought it was flawless, but I don't want to come across as one of those people. It's more, there were things that I didn't like, but they didn't take me out of the experience. They didn't pull me out of the story.
Yeah.
They didn't make me go, ugh.
You just noticed, but then you went right back into it.
Yeah, so that's kind of more or less my rating. Shay and Scott kind of seem to be in agreement. Dad, what would kind of your rating, like on a scale of like 1 being the worst film you've ever seen, 5 being the best film you've ever seen, where do you think The Hateful Eight would fall for you?
My rating scale is, was it worth the money? That's the way I look at it. Was it worth the money to go see it in the theater? Should you wait till it hits the low price theaters, take a matinee, wait for it to come out? I would say it was worth the money.
Yeah, and I mean, especially to see it in like anamorphic widescreen on the big screen, that really is the best way to appreciate a film like that.
Well, not only that, my scaling's slightly different from yours, because I look at it as if, did it keep me entertained? Not just like, oh, did it keep me engaged and stuff like that? Like, was I able to just go into the world and stuff like that? It's like the same thing with Avatar. I was able to go into the world, but then I kept looking at the story sucked, but I was in the world kind of thing. So I gave it the same ranking that you would give, like a 4.5 out of 5. But if I was going to say how it kept me engaged, it might be slightly higher because of the, I got really into
worth
it.
The money is as high as I give.
All right. And my rating's on a base pi, so I give it a 3.4 times infinity, or whatever. My mouth joke fell apart.
Oh yeah, I thought you were gonna like it was like a base pie, and so like okay, it gets like 7 slices of pie out of a 10 pie slice.
You're right. I should have thought that through more.
I thought you were going to say it's like
I mean, especially since we're in a coffee shop, it would have been appropriate.
I thought you were about to say like 3 pi over 2. It's like, actual math.
Yeah, I know. It fell apart. That's what I was trying to do, and it fell apart.
All right, well, if you're still listening after this long hour of discussion, well, thank you for listening / watching. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with the video wise. And so, if there's anything anybody would want to plug, I know that Shaman, you have.
Actually to say, so I do have a blog. I mean, he's not the only creative brother here. It's shameontheuniverse.com. Shame as in SHAME, and then you can spell no spaces. Shameontheuniverse.com. Mostly it's poetry. Sometimes it's political or religious or non-fiction blog topic writing. I'm also going to attempt to write a novel and do other various things. Check it out. I could always use more subscribers.
All right, and as always, you can always listen to my dad on the SP Romney Show on AM 630 K-Talk, moving back to its old-time slot of weekdays 10 to midnight.
Or you can go to my Facebook page, Radio Spoof, and, I do things there I can't do on the air.
I do like some of the things he posts up there, too. It's kind of funny.
All right, and while you're here, Scott, do you have anything you'd like to promote?
The only thing I would like to promote is basically, can I be more involved in your thing? Because I am entertained by your critiquing and stuff like that. But I also would like to see if my commentary was any good.
Vote in the comments below.
Yeah, let us know what you thought of this long-form discussion. I mean, at least it's a little bit more engaging than my Man of Steel and Dark Knight Rises reviews.
I was hearing you. Well, like, were you? Oh, no, you weren't there.
Like Man of Steel, that was when I was with Soraya and Keeney.
I was thinking because, like, okay, for when I hear your giant debates online, when you're screaming... in the house
but-
in your
Well,
tight little box.
that's never actually been about Man of Steel or any of the DC movies. That's when people tried to try Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn under the Logan Act.
But basically, there were so many times when I just wanted to jump in, like especially like a movie I saw, like Star Wars. That was one. I just wanted to jump in and be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind putting my commentary on that.
One more promotion. If you're looking for a good coffee shop, High Point Coffee, Redwood Road, corner of, what is it, 70?
I think this is 78.
It's 80.
7800 South,
I think it's
something
80.
like that.
Yeah, 7800 South Redwood in Utah. So if you're not in Utah,
Very,
You're kind of
very
out of
cool
luck.
place to hang out on a Saturday night if you like live music.
and they let us use our little closed-in box to do this. So,
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, you probably know where to find me. But in case you're just seeing this in a playlist, like who knows if Adam decided to post this on his page, you can always find me right here on YouTube at youtube.com/Studio Phantasma. That is Phantasma with an F. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney's Reviews, no apostrophe. And I'm also on Twitter at Romney Reviews. So thank you for watching. That's a new word. Thank
You
for
went too fast.
Thank you for
Steven. You can
watching
slow
/
down.
listening. Let me know what you think of this format in the comment, and let me know if you want me to do anything like this in the future. I know that you guys tend to like this when we do it with geek news, reviews, and opinions. But hey, if you want to see more long-form discussions about various films, let me know in the comments below. But in the meantime, I will see you all next time.